da, 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 da. Oh, I can see the timer going up, definitely. That's usually a good sign that we've probably started streaming. And you never know, maybe if I keep refreshing this page on my computer that I'm looking at, and then I click this link, I can hear myself. On my computer. I can hear myself. There I am. Hooray! Welcome, welcome to Foundations, Part 2. Now, I noticed the other day that this is a bit of a smaller set, isn't it? In Magic Puzzle Quest. I didn't really take it in at the time, but there's only 200 cards in it, isn't there? Let's go over to here and go Foundations, card name. That's all we want, isn't it? I think. There's 209 cards in the set. It is a bit of a smaller set than we're used to. We're used to about, 270, 260 cards, aren't we? And what that might mean is that, I don't know, if we've got 120 cards to go, it might mean that this breaks up a little shorter than normal. I'll probably have to keep an eye on the time, and because I don't want to be streaming for 3 hours. We might be able to get through the whole lot of the set tonight, or I might try and break it up into 2 lots. So we got up to card number 80 something or something like that, didn't we? Where did we get to? Do I remember gratuitous violence? I don't think so. I remember the fiendish panda. Yes, there we go. We got to the Phoenix, didn't we? I remember talking a lot about the Phoenix because it's a shteev type of card that I don't think, unfortunately, is going to get much play from shteev recently. Yeah, so we're up to card number 80. There are then, therefore, another 129 cards. 65 cards. Should we do 65 cards in part 2 and 65 in part 3? Sounds a bit rubbish, doesn't it? So we might try and do the rest of the entire set tonight. But we shall see. Oh, I forgot to fill my water up, didn't I? Wait here, don't go anywhere. I'll shout through from the kitchen. So you can still hear me. You know that I'm still going. And it's not just a completely dead stream. So you can hear some muffled sounds coming through from the kitchen. It's just if I take the tablet into the kitchen, it cuts off, doesn't it? Too far away from the router. Let us just crack on then, because we might be able to get through the whole set. You never know. In 2 parts, it being a smaller one. Let us move on to Fleeting Distraction. Target creature gets -1, -0 until end of turn. I mean, don't do me any favours. Yeah, I mean, what's the point? And it needing a target creature as well. It means that, it doesn't. Nobody who's casting cheap spells is very excited. No, that's just rubbish. We move on. Fleeting Flight. Target creature gets +1/+1. Oh dear me. Oh, I'm glad we didn't finish on these cards the last time. We picked the right one to finish on last time, didn't we? This creature gets flying and prevent damage. I mean, okay, prevent damage, I suppose, but then only until end of turn and nothing else is absolute crap, isn't it? Frenzied Goblin. When this creature attacks one, Jesus Christ, give us something good. Here we go. This looks like it might be good. Genesis Wave, 21 mana. Golden Wish costs 21 mana. Pick one of the first 2 creature cards from your library. Put that card into play under your control. Oh yeah, because that's not going to cause any problems, isn't it? Yeah, having another way to fetch Galter and put Galter into play isn't going to cause any problems. That'll be fine. That creature gets +X and gains Trample. Then you gain X life. X is the number of green gems on the board. I mean, that's largely irrelevant. I mean, it's probably shaving a turn off or 2 off your Galter attacking, to be honest. But really the important thing is that this is just another way to put Galter in play. you know, and, you know, maybe something else. It's not two different cards. Now, I noticed something actually about, we haven't even got to Mystical Teachings yet. There's no point me talking about Mystical Teachings as we haven't got there yet. So I will just say here now, pick one of the first two creature cards, so it might select two copies of the same thing. It's not fetching two different cards and giving you a choice of two different cards. So I mean, you know, not as good as Galta or even Tempt with Discovery, but you know, the mere fact that it goes and gets a Galta is means it's worth looking at, you know, if you like broken games. Gleaming Barrier, Goblin Borders. I mean, it's better than that one, isn't it? I mean, this is practically, we're going to call this low high shit tier. That's probably a bit too good, isn't it? So maybe high mid shit tier. Yeah, but I mean, you know, yeah, it definitely deserves to be in the upper half of shit tier, doesn't it? But still shit. Goblin Negotiation. Create X Goblin tokens. Deal X damage to target creature. Then deal X damage equal to the excess damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. X is this card's stored mana. Bit expensive, isn't it? 20 mana for a 10/10 and dealing 10 damage to something. I call that a bit expensive. You know, even in places where you want to generate a lot of tokens and you're forced into playing red for some reason, and you're forced into playing rares for some reason. I don't think this is gonna be an interesting card. Goblin Surprise! Are those goblins? They don't look like goblins to me. Fine, no, they're goblins apparently. Choose one. All creatures you control get +2/+0. Option B, create 2 goblin tokens. Now this is straying a bit too far into Octagon territory for my liking. I hope they didn't spend time making this card. I mean, you know, if they just recycled some old code and knocked this one out in 5 minutes, that's fair enough. But I hope they didn't spend time making this god-awful card. Good Fortune Unicorn. Creature enters the battlefield. When a creature enters the battlefield, even so, uninteresting. Gorehound Raider. Survival, deal 2 damage to the first opposing creature. It's 11. We still don't care. Not good enough, is it, for Colours of Magic? Well, you know, not top tier for Colours of Magic. Maybe new players to the game will find they don't mind it too much, but not really good enough. Grappling Kraken. I'm going to say Kraken. I like Kraken with grappling because of the assonance. Yeah, the repeated vowel sound. You know, in my youth, I would probably have said Kraken. Yeah, I don't know where you fall on the Kraken spectrum, but I want the assonance here, so I'm going to call this a Grappling Kraken. What have we got? Landfall. A random opposing creature gains stun counter 1. Now we talked last week in part 1 about how Madran likes his stun counters. I feel like he's not going to like this one though, you know? I mean, you're not really going to you're not get a lot of landfalls if you don't play for a lot of landfalls, and if you do play for a lot of landfalls, then you're going to be wanting something better for your landfalls than stun counter 1, I'm afraid. So I think that's a dud. Gratuitous Violence. I believe this one was a spoiler card in spoiler season. When a creature you control deals combat damage, double that damage. Now I think that doubling damage should work as doubling damage. I don't think it does. Correct me if I'm incorrect here, but I'm pretty sure that, like, because of the way that doubling damage works, because we've got other cards that do this as well. Bloodletter of Aclazots is the one that immediately leaps to mind, and is a better card than this. You know, the way that doubling damage tends to work is, you know, I hit you, and the creature deals damage, and then a big streamy, slow animation comes out, and deals the same amount of damage again. So I think if you play multiple doubling damage effects, Again, check this for yourself if you want, but I'm pretty sure if you play multiple doubling damage effects, the damage doesn't double up at the same time, you know? If you've got a 6/6 and you double its damage, you get an extra 6. And then I think if you double its damage again, you get an extra 6 and an extra 6 like that. It's not like Railway Brawler, you know, where you double the damage up. Or Goblin Valet? What was it? Devilish Valet, where you doubled his power up. And it just kept doubling and doubling. And I think, honestly, considering cards like this and Aclazots, and there are other cards that do it as well. Isn't Fiery Emancipation a damage doubling thing? I think we've probably got quite a few. I think we've got at least 3 in standard, actually. I think they should just double damage up. That's just me. Yeah, I would rather play with the creature. We've got Bloodletter of Aclazots is like a 10 mana 4/5, so it works on itself. It's cheaper. It's a legitimate threat. I still don't play with it anyway, but it is better than this card, which is not a threat on its own. Yeah, and this doesn't even work on spells or anything. So, sod it, I think. Not one for me. When this creature enters the battlefield, create 2 Knight tokens. Well, that's far too expensive as a 12 mana card. 1/1. Gutless Plunderer. Pick one of the first 3 cards in your library, fetch that card, move all cards that weren't fetched this way to your graveyard. No, not interested, sorry. Not one. We've got Marvo, and we've got Overlord of the Flood Pit, so we've got Inti. We've got nice, cheap creatures that are generating cards and mana. We don't just want this rather rubbish thing that just very slightly improves the quality of your draw a little bit. Don't like. Heir Apparent. When this creature enters the battlefield, increase this card's level by 1. Then create X rabbit tokens. X is this card's level. Oh, so its level actually doesn't go up or anything. It's just when you play it. Yeah, when you play this card, you get it and 2 rabbit tokens. And then if you reinforce it, you then get 3 rabbit tokens, and you reinforce it, you get 4 rabbit tokens. I mean, that sounds bad, doesn't it? Sounds bad. When this creature enters the battlefield or dies, gain 1 life. Yeah, whatevs. Combo things with cost reduction. I don't know. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we've cared about combo things with cost reduction. Cost reduction isn't really a thing anymore, is it? Webcore, I don't think, have given us any cards to say all of your creatures get -3 to their cost, have they? Maybe I'm just not paying attention to them because they've all been rubbish, you know? Maybe there are some cards that give everything like -1 to their cost, and I've just completely glossed over them because they're not useful. So, in short, what I'm saying is, I'm saying this is rubbish, no matter what kind of player you are. Helpful Hunter. When this creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. We've got a cheaper version of this, haven't we? Haven't we got a 3 mana frog that did this? Which I played in something. One of the new events I needed to be playing a frog for. Though isn't there a Bloomborough tribal event? And I'm pretty sure I ended up playing Frog Prophet, which I'm guessing is the name of that card. That rings a bell to me. So it's pretty low power, but it's cheap and not without its use. And, this is 1 more mana. And that's what I would say. Cheap and not without its use, maybe. It really depends on whether it very specifically slots into a load of objectives on a level that you want, like the Frog Prophet did for me the other day. Herald of Eternal Dawn. It's pretty funky artwork. When this creature enters the battlefield, you gain prevent damage until the beginning of your next turn. I mean, that's not enough, is it? It's got flash. Now, weirdly enough, this is actually kind of a use for flash, isn't it? Doing a fog like this is kind of a useful flash, because if I played this on my turn, Greg might shoot it and attack me. Whereas if I play it with flash on his turn, he can't shoot it before it attacks, and therefore the prevent damage works. It's just a bit 20 mana for a 6/6 and a prevent damage effect that only lasts for a single turn though, isn't it? You know? Maybe giving a player prevent damage all the time while it's in play, maybe that would be a bit much. I don't think we've seen anything like that, have we? You know, we've had, in paper, they had Ali from Cairo, and we have seen cards like that since then, even though that was one of those, you know, supposedly broken cards from the early days of Magic. You know, they kind of realised it is okay in paper, they realised, to give you creatures that just keep you alive forever. Because people do generally play with ways of getting rid of creatures. So Platinum Angel, for example, in paper, just keeps you alive for forever until it gets shot. It says you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game, can they? And we got a watered down version of Platinum Angel in this game. Maybe it's time to try just giving us a Platinum Angel, but full-on Platinum Angel, yeah? I mean, I don't like the fact that we're so far up Power Creep Alley. But if we are, and Webcore really want to do that, maybe fuck it. Maybe it's time to try a creature that just gives you prevent damage all the time. And see how that sits with everyone. It's not like there's a shortage of ways to get rid of it. Give it a go. I don't like that one though. Hero's Downfall. Destroy target creature, then your opponent loses 2 life. Yeah, that's too expensive, isn't it? Oh, I like the way that they started putting target creature. We've seen less kind of destroy opposing creatures, haven't they? And it's mostly being target creatures now. And we like target creatures because, you know, we can slow ourselves down when we're playing for objectives in coalition events. Or any event, to be honest. Of course, Greg traditionally has shot a lot of these, of his own creatures with cards like this, but I have been maintaining a list on the forums of cards that Greg does that with, and lo and behold, Webcore actually fixed a bunch of them in the last patch. I thought they probably would. I thought the whole reason I was kind of maintaining that list because I knew it was a load of easy fixes that Webcore could do. And lo and behold, they did. So, you know, even if this is broke, I mean, you know, maybe not this card, but maybe there's a good version of this card in this set. Even if it is broken, Greg kills his own creatures with them. Maybe they will fix them, because they have fixed some things like that in the past. We move on. Hidetsuku's Second Right. Now, Hidetsuku's Second Right is a fabulous card. Fabulous card if you're playing Mental Magic. I'm not sure I've got time to go into what Mental Magic is. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to leave that sentence hanging. Let's see what we've got. Deals 10 damage to any target. Then if your opponent has exactly 15 life, deal 15 damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. Now, Hidetsuku's Second Right is a really bizarre card in paper. And what it says is, if your opponent has exactly 10 life, it does 10 damage to them. Is that what it does? I'm just going to check that. I remember it being really bizarre, and I remember using it as a finisher. Hidetsuku's Second Right. Yes, if target player has exactly 10 life, it deals 10 damage to that player. So, I mean, okay, you could see why they didn't convert that exact card to MTGPQ, you know, because, I mean, even if you said if a Planeswalker has exactly half its life, this card will kill them. I mean, the chances of that happening are so much less in a game when you've got 120 life than when you've got 20 life. 10 damage to any target. 15 damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. I mean, honestly, I would have just had it say, deal 10 damage to any target, and also deal 10 damage to any target. How about that? That would have been better, wouldn't it? Better card, still not broken. Remember, burn, generally low power, so you can make it better than this. One final thing, does that not remind you of one of the apes from Planet of the Apes on that card? Yeah, it does me. Hi, Fey Trickster. Hi, Fey Trickster. At the beginning of your turn, spell cards in your hand gain 1 mana and flash. Okay, so that's low power, isn't it? Gaining 1 power, very low power. I really don't think that gaining flash is worth it. I could be wrong. I really, really don't think it is. Very small, crappy body. Don't like it at all. I doubt it. See, to get the Johnny Combo players excited, and even the Timmies excited, you have to at least stick it on like a 10-10 body, I'm afraid. Hi, Society Hunter. Sounds like a vampire. Is indeed a vampire noble. When this creature attacks, 14 mana, 5/3, bit expensive. You may destroy another target creature you control. If you do, this creature gets +3/+3. When a non-token creature dies, draw a card. Yeah, have you ever met Rakdos? Have you seen Rakdos? Have a look at Rakdos and see what Rakdos does. Hoarding Dragon. Here we have a masterpiece. 15 mana, 4/4. When this creature enters the battlefield or attacks. Okay, now these are dangerous words normally, aren't they? Enters the battlefield or attacks usually means we've at least got a Cityscape Leveler on our hands, you know. If not a Dragonhawk, you know, or an Overlord of the Flood Pits. So we have high hopes for this card, just from the start of that sentence. Destroy the top 4 cards of your library. Right, it doesn't do anything else. The next clause is when this creature dies. This isn't sounding good, is it? So that's all that happens. You just destroy the top 4 cards of your library when it enters the battlefield or attacks. Oh dear me. And then, when it dies, which, you know, it's not going to do anytime soon. It's not like it's got Defender or Berserk or anything. When it dies, deal X damage to your opponent. X is the number of artifact cards in your graveyard. Not even the number of cards in your graveyard. Then, return the first artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. It doesn't even put it into play. Do you know what game you are making, Webcore? Do you know your own game? Have you seen some of the cards that you make and are charging $80 for? You can't make something like this and make anybody give a shit about it. It's so bad, isn't it? Homunculus Horde. When you draw your second card in a turn... Yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it? Sorry, that's hello, Shmara. Shmara's in the chat, I see. And she said she doesn't like the dragon, and she's correct not to. That is the correct opinion to have. This dragon is a piece of shit. Not even in your hand with 4 mana. No, it's not. You don't even put it into your hand with 4 mana or into play. No, it just comes back to your hand empty. And that's it. It's such a bad card. And it's a masterpiece. Homunculus Horde. Anyway. Okay, so we've got Fibblethip vibes on the from this card, from the art. 7 mana, 3/3. When you draw your second card in a turn, reinforce this creature. I mean, it's not hard to draw 2 cards in a turn, but why should we care about having a 3/3 that becomes a 6/6 that becomes a 9/9 that becomes a 12/12? I mean, we can do a lot better than that, can't we? I guess we can call it high shit tier, low high shit tier. But yeah, you've got to kind of build a bit for it, haven't you? You do have to build. It's not hard to draw 2 cards in a turn, but you do have to build a bit for it. So, don't know. I don't like it. Low power. Hungry Ghoul. Oh, I do like the art on that one. So it's got kind of an old EC Comics vibe, hasn't it? When a non-token creature you control dies, this creature gets +1/+1. Well, that's awful. When this creature enters the battlefield, draw a card. It is 11 mana, but we don't give a shit about that, really, do we? There are better ways to get, you know, a creature and a card for 11 mana in Colours of Magic. So that is shit. Incinerating Blast. You may discard a card if you do draw a card. Deals 6 damage to target creature. Awful. Maybe we'll get through this set really quick. There are so many bad cards in the set, and I don't particularly feel the urge to ramble on about most of them. Maybe we'll get through this entire set really fast tonight. When this creature dies, this is a 7 mana 2/1. When it dies, if it's not a demon, return it to the battlefield. Then this creature gets +5/+5 and gains the demon subtype. I mean, honestly, just give us a 7/6 demon for 7 mana. It's rare. Why not? Just give us a 7/6 demon for 7 mana. And in fact, fuck it. Let's have a 7/6 demon for 7 mana, and the first time it dies, yeah, it comes back into play as well. Not interested in that card. Infestation Sage. When this creature dies, it's one of these things again. Jesus. Inspiration from Beyond. Destroy the top 3 cards of your library. Then return the last spell card from your graveyard to your hand. No, I don't think so. I can see the reasonably low buried cost there. I did find myself today playing with. I'm just skipping forward randomly. I did find myself today, as you can see from the XP bar at the top of the screen, playing with Think Twice in Duets of Magic earlier today. And because I was playing with Drowned Secrets and I was playing with Glimpse the Unthinkable, I did find myself casting quite a few of these from my graveyard. So I will be looking out for these very low buried costs with Flashback. But I'm not sure we care about, you know, destroying 3 cards from your library. Where were we? I've completely lost myself. Not sure we care about destroying 3 cards from the library and then getting 1 card back and having no choice of what that card is. Can't see that slotting into a combo deck or anybody else caring. Inspiring Call. This rings a bell. All creatures you control gain prevent damage until end of turn. Right. Draw a card for each non-token creature you control. I suppose so. If you like, if you're interested in creature combat, I'm afraid we're all beyond creature combat here in 2024. But if you like a bit of creature combat, knock yourself out and play that card. Inspiring Paladin. At the beginning of your turn, this creature gets first strike. They're doing the thing again. This is from paper. Yeah, creatures don't have first strike all the time in paper because they're too good at defending, but creatures don't defend. I don't know why I say this every time. I'm just kind of vaguely hoping that if I just shout it into the universe, it will go into Webcore's brains by osmosis. There's no point having this mechanic at the beginning of your turn. Your creature gets first strike, right? Just give a creature first strike. It's done that way in paper for a specific reason. We don't have that specific reason because creatures don't block by default. Then your modified creatures. Jesus Christ, can anyone remember what the fuck modified is? Creatures that are buffed or have a pilot evergreen. Oh God, I hope we don't get more pilot cards in this set. I hate pilots so much. Yeah, you know, when you get a big cascade, yeah, and your pilot creature stops being a pilot, and the game says, do you want to make it a pilot again? And you go, yes. And then the game says, oh, well, that stopped being a pilot. Do you want to make it a pilot again? Yes. Well, it stopped being a pilot a 3rd time. Do you want to make it a pilot again? Yes. I hate it so much. I feel like we are going to get pilots in this set, but I really hope we don't. Anyway, that's shit. We move on. Joust through 3 damage to target creature, gain 2 life. So many just worthless cards. What? Who are they making these for? Who are they making them for? What have we got here? I mean, this is better than what we've seen, isn't it? A 10 mana 5/3 with haste that's unblockable. It's better than what we've seen. I can't really think of any reason I'd ever like to play it. But it's better than the general standard of uncommons in the set we've seen. Jungle Hollow, that's one of those rubbish lands. Kellen! Save us, Kellen. Give us something good to talk about since you are a mythic. Activate 2. That's not a good start, is it? 12 mana 2/1. It's all sounding bad. This creature gains flying and the detective subtype. What the hell, man? At the beginning of your turn, if this card has a detective subtype, this creature gains double strike and gains the rogue subtype. I mean, this is a full-on octagon word salad, isn't it? Because it doesn't really mean anything that it's a rogue. Well, it doesn't mean anything that it's a rogue. It doesn't really mean anything that's detective, because it could just gain the double strike, couldn't it? You know? So the detective is a bit of a pointless thing. At the end of your turn, this creature gets +2/+1. Right, so I mean, what we've kind of got here is a creature that grows and has a bit of double strike. And that's okay. We could do that. Why not give it double strike all the time? You know, if you're going to start it this small, don't tie it to activate 2. That's rubbish. Activate 2 is terrible. But you could have a go with that, couldn't you? Yeah, a 2/1 double strike that just gets +2/+1 every turn. Well, that turns into quite a significant threat, you know, in not too long, does it? Double strike's always fun because you can always throw pumpy effects on double strike. It's the activate 2 that kills that, and also I hate the word salad. Kiora, the Rising Tide. Now, everyone's been busted down from being a planeswalker these days. I don't know if I've talked about this before on one of my streams, but I read something about this. They're generally going to be making less planeswalkers in Paper Magic, and they're going to be concentrating on legendary cards instead. And here's one. Here's an ex-planeswalker who is now a legend. When this creature enters the battlefield, mind you, we have already had a Kiora, actually, haven't we? A good couple of years ago, who was a legendary card. Because she doesn't work properly, does she? She was broken, and you could do, at the time, you could do like Blade of Shared Souls, Danibos things with her, couldn't you? When this creature enters the battlefield, discard the last card without mana from your hand, then draw 3 cards. Well, that's okay. We don't mind discarding a card without mana. Then draw 3 cards. I mean, I say it's okay. You know, I like drawing cards. I like drawing cards that have mana in them more than that. I think I'll be playing Overlord of the Flood Pits, please. Threshold 2. Right, well, we're not going to be getting up to Threshold 2 if this card only discards 1 single card and doesn't really accelerate us. You know, so we like the Octopus Totem will no doubt be an 8/8 with reach as normal, yes. But Threshold 2 means we're going to have to tear through, you know, 20 to 30 cards in our deck and put them into the graveyard. So it's bad. Sorry. Coma the World Eater. Oh, I think somebody's shown me this already. This one rings a bell. 18 mana, 8/12. I mean, at least it's got a decent sized body on it. It's got Ward. I can't decide if I like Ward. I don't think I like Ward. Like, the thing about Standard at the moment is I've just stopped playing 1/1s because I play, as you all know, things like Requisition Raid, things like Demon Inferior, things like Chaos Warp. Even when I do play 1/1s, I'm playing Molten Collapse that doesn't target. I'm playing Legions to Ashes that I believe doesn't target. So to me, Ward feels kind of irrelevant. I like having it on my Ulamog. I play Ulamog a bit in, actually in Legacy Training Grounds. And I like the fact that Ulamog's got Ward. It makes me feel good that it's got Ward. I don't think it's even slightly relevant to the game. So I think that's nothing. Can't have its mana drained or raised. Again, nothing. Ward, yep. When this creature attacks, right, okay, so this will be the good bit, if there's a good bit. Create 4 Coma's Coil tokens And those are 3/3s. Right, so we're putting an 18 mana 8/12 into play. And it's not doing anything until it attacks. Now, to me, that says high shit tier, I'm afraid, yeah? Spending a lot of mana on a creature that doesn't do anything until it attacks. That just says high shit tier to me. But when it does attack, it's putting a 12/12 into play. And then another 12/12. And then another 12/12. I mean, that is more raw power than an Elspeth. Yeah? Than a Vanguard Elspeth Archangel. Because Elspeth Archangel is generally spitting out less than 12 power, maybe 7 power. She tends to put a bit more, tends to make an average of more like 10, I find. But that's because I'm casting Golden Wish every other turn, you know, so you probably shouldn't say that as a baseline for how much Elspeth is putting in. So the Coma World Eater is probably pumping up about twice as much power as Elspeth. But, you know, I'm afraid to say the problem with Coma World Eater is it might get shot before it does anything. You know, it's a token generator that is a creature itself. It's vulnerable to board sweeps. I'm going to call it high shit tier. I'm not even going to put it more higher than that. High shit tier. But I'm not going to put it higher than that, I'm afraid. Sorry. Krenko Mob Boss. Have we not had Krenko? We've had different Krenkos, I'm sure, in the game before. But I'm getting this a lot with this set, because this set is like a greatest hits of Magic. Yeah, I keep seeing the name of a card and saying, have we not already got that in Magic Puzzle Quest? And of course we have got some cards, because Octagon were lazy and didn't bother to check. We have got a couple of cards here and there, like Corrupt or Ignite the Beacon, I think is one. Or I want to say Nat Miser or Bone Miser, some kind of miser anyway. We've got 2 different copies of cards with the same name, because Octagon. Sorry, Webcore, I was nearly rude to you there. I meant to be rude to Octagon. Octagon just couldn't be bothered to do their jobs properly. So maybe Webcore have done their jobs properly. I'm sure they have, and they haven't given us any duplicate cards. But I just keep reading names and thinking, I'm sure we've got that. Shall we move on? This one says, at the beginning of your turn, reinforce all goblin creatures you control. Oh, we're definitely in Coma World Eater territory with this card, aren't we? Look at this. At the beginning of your turn, reinforce all goblin creatures you control. Right. So it comes into play. It's a 3/3. Then it becomes a 6/6 and does the following. Then create X goblin tokens. X is the number of goblin creatures you control, including their reinforcements. I mean, if I don't like Coma, and I don't think Ward is relevant, because that's something that Coma has over Krenko, doesn't it? It's got Ward, but I don't think it's relevant. Coma's a bit, I think Coma's a bit better than Krenko, isn't he? She? I want to say she for some reason. It's the A at the end of the name, isn't it? That's how I've been socialised. I'm sorry. So we've got a 16 mana for a 3/3. Next turn it goes up to a 6/6, which attacks for 6, and we get 2 goblins. 2 goblin tokens, which are 1/1s. Next turn it goes up to a 9/9. The tokens go up to 3/3. Then we get... It's starting to spiral quite quick, isn't it? It goes up to a 9/9. The tokens go to 3/3. Then we get 5 more to 8/8. So we hit for 17. This is sounding all right, isn't it? Yeah? So we get 6 the turn after we play it. Then we get 17. The next turn we go up to a 12/12. Yeah? And then the 8/8, it does spiral up quite quick, doesn't it? I mean, that's enough probably to take it out of high shit tier. But unfortunately, I did just say that this card doesn't deserve to be higher than high shit tier, does it? So I think we're going to have to put Krenko Mob Boss in the highest of high shit tiers as well, I'm afraid. Sorry! Kaikar, Zephyr Awakener. What have we got? When this creature attacks, you may exile another target creature you control. If you do, return the first creature from your exile into play under your control, otherwise create a bird token. Right, we've got one of these already, haven't we? Haven't we got one of these? And I have had it flagged up for a while as a card that costs us 11 that I might be able to play in... Doesn't this do exactly the same thing? When this creature attacks... Yeah, I mean, that is basically the same. It's got ward. It costs exactly 11 for your Colours of Magic. I never play this in Colours of Magic. I don't really like it, to be honest. I don't like this randomness of, like, you know, the first creature in your exile popping out. I mean, maybe if I was to play with it, I would find it's a little less random than I'm thinking. Or maybe I'd find it's a little more random than I'm thinking, you know, because, like, Greg can exile things, you know. But yes, so I don't like Abuelo, and that's been in since LCI. That's been in for a year, and I haven't liked it. And so, wake up please UI, thank you very much. And so that means I'm not going to like Kaikar Zephyr Awakener. I don't like Kaikar as a name. That doesn't trip off the tongue, does it? 2K sounds is supposed to be funny, isn't it? But, no, don't like the name, don't like the card, don't like anything. Leyline Axe, I'm sure this was spoiled in spoiler season. This support can't be reinforced, so that's a bit of a shame. This is a 20 mana, 1 shield card, so it better do something really, really tricksy. At the beginning of your turn, if this card is in your hand, reduce the cost of each card in your hand. Name Leyline Axe by 20. Now that's an interesting mechanic we haven't seen before. So it is, in fact, completely free. Yeah? I put this card into my hand. Yeah, I draw it. And if I want to play it straight away on the turn I draw it, it's going to cost me 20 mana. That's obviously rubbish. But if I just leave it in my hand, then next turn it's going to be free. Its cost gets reduced by 22-0. So that's an interesting mechanic I haven't seen before. I mean, I think I'm going to decide it's a shame it's on an equipment. But I'd like to see more of this mechanic. At the beginning of the combat on your turn, your first creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike and trample. I don't think that's enough, is it? Double strike is a thing. I don't think that's enough, you know. It's a completely free card, giving things double strike. That can definitely put it in high shit tier. But of course, you know, even though it's free, even though we're excited about the fact that it's free, why does it have to have 1 shield, you know? Yeah, you can see what they're doing, you know, it's a free thing, so it's flimsy and it doesn't last very long, but, you know. Also, it's not very powerful, so what's stopping it from having 2 shields or 3 shields? Do something different with that mechanic. I'm interested in that mechanic. Do something different with it. Loot, Exuberant Explorer, 5 mana, 1/4. At the beginning of your turn, gain 5 mana. Right, now I have more time for cards like this at the moment. The obvious card to compare this to is one that I can't remember the name of. So once again, I'm going to head back into the myths of history. What? Ah, that'll be where it is. And say Somberwild Sage. Right. Yeah? It's a very obvious card to compare it to. Somberwild Sage, I would say quite clearly, craps on loot for power level. Yeah, I've played with Somberwild Sage quite a lot. And converting 5 green is no joke. We all know that from playing with Cryptex. And you also get a serious amount of life off this one. But, you know, just at the moment, firstly, I'm quite into cheap creatures that kind of start you off in the game. I mean, obviously loot isn't as good as Overlord of the Flood Pits, but then nothing is. That's kind of the problem with making broken cards. You know, having a creature that you can drop very fast and gives you advantage getting into the game early, I'm into that theoretically. You know, Inti, Marvo, that kind of thing. I'm also, you know, I don't want to say I'm into it. I'm not really into the idea of cards that gain mana rather than converting gems. I have to be into those cards because Desert exists. Oh, hello the Hunter, welcome in. Good to see you in the stream. Yes, loot. I would much rather Desert didn't exist because it's stupid and I play it all the time. You know? And I just like gem converting lands, you know, as a basic staple of the game, which have all been wrecked by Desert existing. But, you know, now I'm getting used to playing with Swarmyard. Obviously, Swarmyard is very powerful card. So yeah, so I can kind of see myself playing with loot. Should we have a look at what else loot's got before we pass judgment? Activate 1. That is a shame. Fetch the first creature with the highest cost that is 15 or less from your library. Right, so it might fetch itself, and we don't want another copy of itself, so that is a bad thing. It's also activate 1, so we can kind of completely discard that entire ability and not care about it, can't we? Yeah, it does seem too low power for me. I appreciate the fact that I've just said that Swarmyard is great, and I play with Swarmyard a lot. And loot appears to generate the same amount of mana as Swarmyard, doesn't it? So we shouldn't discount that. But it's very important to realise that Swarmyard does do another thing that is great, which is put an endless stream of blockers into play. I mean, when you look at it, the amount of life that Swarmyard saves me personally in a game from being attacked, you know, and killing things like Overlord of the Flood Pits, for God's sake. Yes, Swarm tokens could do that. That's a huge part of its power. So when we take away that, and we just have a card that gains 5 mana a turn, I'm not sure I'm excited by that. It's worth a look, this card. But I just think it needs more than just being a cheap card that gives you 5 mana every turn. It's okay. It's okay. It's not great. Luminous Rebuke. Beginning of your turn, if this card's in your hand and doesn't have full mana, this card's cost is reduced by 3 for each creature you control. I think it's a waste of time putting this mechanic on this card, to be honest. This is not what I want out of a destroy target creature spell, I'm afraid. The fact that I must have a bunch of creatures in play, you know, and if I happen to be behind and I'm losing, then the control cards that I need to get myself back into play are suddenly too expensive. I just think it's an ill-conceived design on a card. I'm sure they took it from paper, but paper's a different game, you know? So just ill-conceived, the whole design on that card. Right, stay here. I'm not gonna pause the stream because I can't be bothered to figure out how to stitch 2 parts of a stream together on on YouTube. Basically, that's why I'm going to leave it running with lots of dead air. But I must run off to the loo. I will only be a few minutes. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm so sorry about that. Is it still going? Are we still running? I'm hoping we are. I'm hoping with that terrible dead air, terribly unprofessional dead air. Yeah, I was going to say that when I came back, that I'm sure all the professional streamers, I'm sure they just wee in a bottle, don't they? But I'm not doing that. We're at Marauding Blight Priest. When you gain life, your opponent loses 3 life. This effect can trigger up to 3 times. Shmira says, I don't like the trigger up to 3 times thing they've been doing. I mean, I don't really like it by default. It doesn't happen in paper, and what they do in paper is they just don't make cards that form infinite combo loops, you know? I mean, you know, like much like in Magic Puzzle Quest, some of them slip through, and there are some that exist in, you know, eternal formats like Vintage and Legacy. But, you know, they work really hard when they're designing cards in paper Magic not to make cards that combo off infinitely. Now, we all know they just don't put that much time into designing cards in Magic Puzzle Quest. And honestly, I think this is kind of a good compromise, you know, when they're going to make a card that could combo off infinitely, to limit the number of time it triggers like this, you know, just to make sure that they stop, you know, infinite 2-card combos just proliferating the place, is not a bad thing. What it does mean is that we end up with no combos in Standard, and I'm not sure that's a good thing either, really. Is it? There are combo players out there, and they like building combo decks, and they kind of can't these days, unless Webcore just completely forget to write, you know, this card only triggers X times on a card. And we have those in Standard at the moment. Ocelot Pride is just freely allowed to combo off as much as it likes. Wisp Drinker Vampire can combo off as much as it likes, combines with the node support in, I think, one of the Race to Orazka levels. Little tip from me, just in case you weren't aware of it. So, I don't know. I don't want Puzzle Quest to be overrun by 2-card combos, you know? And printing these trigger limits on cards seems like a good way to stop it being overrun by 2-card combos. Because the alternative is to say to Webcore, spend a lot of time on card design, and they're absolutely not going to do that. You know, we have to be realistic about these things. Let's have a look at this card. When you gain life, your opponent loses 3 life. It's uninteresting. We move on. Midnight Snack. Well, somebody's been caught eating cake. When this support enters the board, and at the beginning of your turn, create 4 food tokens. Right, well, that's quite a lot of food tokens, isn't it? Then, if you have full life, destroy all gems. Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Because if you have full life, then you destroy all the gems, you destroy all the food tokens, you gain a bunch of life, yeah? So if you don't need life, you destroy all those food tokens that you were generating and gain life you don't need. But if you need it, you can't destroy them. However, they're still peppering the board all over the place, aren't they? So you still can match them away. If you have full life, destroy all gems. At the end of your turn, your opponent loses X life. X is the amount of life you gain this turn. Well, I mean, I'm immediately thinking play control infestation, and then I'm immediately thinking, oh no, wait, I can't do that because you have to play rares and commons in play control. They do rather keep doing this with cards, don't they? I know, this is kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean, I really don't think it's me. Maybe some people will really enjoy playing with this card. Who knows? Yeah, I don't think I mind it. It doesn't look too powerful to me. It is spawning an awful lot of food tokens all over the board. You know, I'm sure your Shattergang brothers, or whatever they're called, will enjoy playing with this card. I mean, it seems kind of interesting. I don't like that little bit of anti-synergy at the beginning, you know, with the if you have full life, destroy all gems. It's kind of a bit of anti-synergy that I don't like. But it's, yeah, I guess I don't mind this card existing. And, you know, who knows? Maybe I'll even find it threatening. See, I probably won't find it threatening. People who are trying to kill supports one by one might find it threatening. This is the kind of support that actually might overwhelm a demolition field. If your plan to get rid of tons of support is demolition field, I can imagine that this Midnight Snack immediately putting out 4 food tokens and then putting out 4 a turn, it might be able to overwhelm a demolition field. What are you talking about, Steve? Can you even imagine such a thing? Well, believe it or not, it has happened to me. I have had a demolition field out against Pajami, who is also capable of shitting out 4 token supports a turn. And I have found that my demolition field couldn't keep up with it. So it is a possibility, albeit a reasonably unlikely possibility, because demolition field is fucking ace. On the other hand, of course, the other card that I play with all the time is Requisition Raid. And Requisition Raid will be able to blow up the Midnight Snack and will blow up all of the food tokens as well. I might take a big hit when it does. There's like 12 food tokens in play. Oh no, that's not going to happen at all, is it? Because what I was thinking is that when the Requisition Raid blows up all the food tokens, they will gain life. And I was thinking, well, that means at the end of the turn, I'm going to take a load of damage, doesn't it? But it doesn't, because the whole point of playing the Requisition Raid was to blow up the Midnight Snack so it won't trigger at end of turn. In conclusion, don't chase it. I don't mind it existing. There you go. Mild-mannered librarian. I think it's hilarious that they've given us another werewolf. But it's one that you can't cast. I mean, they have changed Terror in the Shadows. Bless them. They changed Terror in the Shadows. The idea of running an objective in an event that requires you to play wolves and werewolves when we have 0 werewolves and only about, I think it was 5 wolves, wasn't it? At the time when they ran it the first time round. So basically everyone was just playing Garrett Cursed Huntsman. I think it's kind of hilarious they've given us another werewolf now. And one that is not a werewolf when you cast it, so it wouldn't have counted for that anyway. Obviously crap, we move on. Mischievous Mystic. When you draw a card, now instantly my eyes cast down to the bottom of this card. I saw it was an uncommon. I saw it had the level mechanic. I thought to myself, this card, whatever it says, it's going to say at end of turn, this card's level becomes 1 at the bottom, isn't it? And it does. So I'm pretty sure this card is going to suck. When you draw a card, increase this card's level by 1. Okay. At the beginning of combat, if this card's level is 3 or more, create 2 fairy tokens. I mean, there are so many better ways of creating tokens than this. So don't. Mossborn Hydra. 2 fairy tokens per turn. Mossborn Hydra. Landfall, double this creature's power and toughness. Well, as you can see, I've got this one. I'm sure that little bit of experience you can see in it is because I've been mastering it, because this is not the kind of card that's going to get me excited. You know, yes, okay, it does double up, and that means it's a 2-2, then it's a 4-4, then it's an 8-8, then it's a 16-16. And it's reasonably cheap at 8 mana. Again, though, I just feel, yeah, if you're making one of those decks which is going to landfall a lot, you know, you're probably putting Galter in it, aren't you? And you're probably putting that card, that spell we saw earlier that I can't remember the name of, that fetches Galter, and you're probably putting Tempt with Discovery in it, and you're probably putting Mystic Teachings in it. When you finish putting all of those broken cards in it, I'm pretty sure you're going to find that Mossborn Hydra is not powerful enough for the rest of your deck. I think you might still be playing with the Railway Brawler. Does anyone see Railway Brawler a lot? I'm sure I've seen it within the last couple of months. It's not like it's a massively popular card. But I think, you know, just the fact that that gets a little bit of a bigger start on it, being a 5/5. I think we're more likely to see that than we are the Mossborn Hydra. Don't like it. Myojin of Knight's Reach. There's a long story I could tell about Myojin of Knight's Reach and how I won an enormous piece of Perspex at the Somerset 2005 Magic the Gathering County Championships because of Myojin of Knight's Reach. But I think that's enough detail. You fill in the detail, the blanks for yourself. What have we got? 40 mana, 8/3 Berserk with shield counter 2. Oh, is this one spoiled? This one is starting to ring a bell. I mean, I like, design-wise, the Melvin in me is quite liking the fact that we've got a Berserk creature with shield counter 2. However, the Spike in me is like, well, if you just want to kill a lot of creatures, why don't you play with Daretti? Yeah, the Vanguard Daretti. That's what you want to do. Don't waste your time waiting for this thing to attack and hope that it's big enough to kill things. Yeah, this is not spiky enough. There's more. When this creature leaves the battlefield, your opponent discards all cards that can be discarded from their hand. I mean, there's interesting stuff here, but yeah, it's all going in. It's all pulling in the wrong direction, really. Like I say, the shield counter and the Berserk is interesting, but it's not a reliable way to kill things, and that's what you want when you want to kill things. You want it to be reliable, you know. Give it Death Touch, give it Haste. You know, there's all kinds of ways. Fucking give it Defender, give it Reach. All kinds of ways you can make it slightly less reliable, but it's always going to be a creature that kills things. I mean, I'm going to play with Vraska every time over playing this, I'm afraid. And then, you know, it discards your opponent's hand, which is an interesting thing, but like, you don't want it to die. Yeah, and it's not just going to die. It's not just going to roll over and die for quite a while. So you can't like tell when that's going to happen. Everything about this card screams unreliable. Mystical Teachings. Mystical Teachings. Mystical Teachings. Mystical Teachings. Hello and welcome to my ASMR channel where I would just be saying Mystical Teachings over and over. I mean, fuck off, honestly. Come on. Don't fucking print something like this. What are you like? It's so far above the curve. Are you insane? As you can see, I own this card and I've played this quite a bit. I would probably advise you all out there not to chase it, to be honest. It is great. It is broken. But it's, you know, maybe problematic for the game. I don't even think Webcore are gonna nerf this now. I just think that, you know, 1 or 2 sets down the line, they'll have printed too many of these, and all of a sudden a mega combo deck will have emerged. You know? I think we've got most of that mega combo deck now, I think, haven't we? Because we have got, and I've named them all already tonight, you know, we've got Galto, we've got Temple of Discovery, we've got this. Yeah, we've got that creature, yeah, from Duskmourn, and when you play it, rips the top card off your deck and gives it full mana. And now we've got this new card that just puts a Galto into play, haven't we? So that's 5 cards of a combo deck. That might be enough, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. And when that combo deck hits, when there are finally enough cards that they've made in standard, yeah, for you to, to start a game against Greg, and then whatever he casts, he just fucking instantly wins. When that deck hits the game, they will have to nerf something. It's that simple. They'll probably nerf everything. Knowing what we know from what happened to GTA, yeah, they nerfed everything there, didn't they? They nerfed Galta, they nerfed Atraxa, they nerfed Tortoise, they nerfed Thunderous Debut. So when that deck hits, and it will hit if they keep making cards like this, and why would they fucking not? Well, they made this one. They'll probably nerf everything. So, yes, I chased this card down out of the Elite Pack. If you have resources to burn and you want to win games, chase it down. 9 mana Golden Wish, you say? Yes, please. That's quite broken, isn't it? Yes, it is. But if you don't have the resources, then maybe, honestly, just think about holding off on it, because broken as it is, and plus, if you're, more of an intermediate player, or certainly a newbie player, maybe you just don't have the broken spells to go and fetch with Mystical Teachings. It's only broken because it fetches broken cards. Yeah? Well, that's not true. It's broken because it fetches broken cards, and because it's a lot cheaper than those broken cards. But if you don't have the broken cards, don't go after it. What else is there to say about this card? Like I said, I don't think they're going to nerf it straight away. It doesn't work how it's written, and I wonder if that's not a bug. What it says is pick one of the first 2 different spell cards from your library that is not named Mystical Teachings. Fetch that card, it gains full mana. You would think from that wording that it would never offer you 2 cards with the same name. But it can do that. I have seen it do that. So it's marginally less powerful than it's written. I don't think that makes a whole lot of difference, to be honest, But that's just something to be aware of. But yeah, this and Confiscate, I don't know what the fuck they're thinking making this stuff, to be perfectly honest. Mark my words, a combo deck is coming. Yeah, you seen that? You'll seen that? Take Shelter. It's a really good movie with Michael Shannon in it. Check it out. I really like that one. Let's move on. Needle Tooth Pack. This is also a magic card. This is a magic card. Yeah, do whatever the fuck you like for 9 mana. That's a magic card. But Needle Tooth Pack, this is also an equally powerful magic card. It's a 12 mana 4/5. At the end of your turn, if something died, this creature gets +3/+3. I mean, honestly, considering some of the really shitty uncommons we've seen, I mean, this is like really high low shit tier, isn't it? Compared to, I mean, not compared to the high shit tier cards, but compared to the lowest of the low shit tier cards. This is a high low shit tier card. Anyway, we move on. 9 Lives Familiar. When this support loses shield an opposing creature, all opposing creatures get -3/-3, then your opponent loses 3 life. This is a bit of a no mercy, isn't it? No Mercy was better though, -3/-3 permanently. You have to match the, it is once again an unreliable way of killing things. And we live in a world which has very, very reliable ways of killing things. Even black now. We've got Blasphemous Edict now as a one-sided black board sweep, which I have got and I have played with it, and I'm still not sure. I'm sure I said I must have gone past it and talked about it. Sure, I said at the time maybe I reckon it's probably a bit unreliable having to put those 13 cards in your graveyard. But there are plain old Wrath of Gods in black. Push-pull is a plain old Wrath of God in black, isn't it? So, yeah, and of course, nobody plays mono black planeswalkers because they all suck. So everyone's got access to Requisition Raid if they want it. Yeah, it's an unreliable creature kill in an age of reliable creature kill. Overrun. This is a badass card in paper. When you get this in your sealed pool, you are going to win quite a lot of games with it on that day when you put it into your sealed deck. At the beginning of combat on your turn, this is a support. Okay, it's a sorcery in paper magic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, your creatures get +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. I mean, that sounds shit, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound shit? I mean, it does the same thing in paper. It gives your creatures +3/+3 and trample. All of your creatures +3/+3 and trample. Believe me, that's a lot better in paper with 20 life totals. I mean, that looks terrible to me, doesn't it? Doesn't everyone think that's terrible? Yeah, I think Overrun's a terrible card. We move on. I mean, okay, maybe we could call it high shit tier. Maybe we could call it high shit tier, low high shit tier. Perforating Artist. Do you think we're going to bifurcate shit tier further? Do you think I'm eventually going to become so au fait with like high mid shit tier and low high shit tier that I'm going to want to further, and we'll start getting high low high shit tier? I think that might happen. Watch out for that in the future. Perforating Artist, survival. Your opponent discards a card if they can't lose 3 life. Again, you know, we're kind of beyond this. We've had effects like this in the past with every single turn your opponent discards a card. And maybe in 2016, maybe you could have locked down your opponent permanently with something like this. But here in 2024, on a 13 mana 3/2 that needs to attack in order to trigger, it's not going to cut it. Pilfer, what the living fuck is that thing? It's the fact that it seems to be wearing clothes that's getting me. I mean, it looks like it's got a cap like Captain Sensible. I don't know what the hell's going on that card. It's just an absolute nightmare, isn't it? What do we have? Your opponent discards 2 non-land cards without mana from hand for 16 mana. Fucking garbage. Absolute garbage. Now, this is weird, isn't it? Look, here's Overrun. Now, what Overrun does is, in paper, is all your creatures get a lot bigger and hit your opponent in the face once. So they've made this copy of Overrun completely different from that. And yet this, Prosperous Proportions, this is kind of what Overrun does. In paper, creatures you control get +10/+10. That's quite a lot bigger than that. I know this works every turn, yeah. But, you know, Overrun, the idea of Overrun is supposed to be a one-shot. There's room to turn it into something else. Just, I don't like that. So, +10/+10 and Vigilance until the beginning of your next turn. So, I mean, I imagine in paper, things get +10/+10, well, +X and Vigilance. And the idea is that those cards don't tap. Yeah? And weirdly enough, it's going to kind of work the same way in, even though Vigilance is a different ability in Magic Puzzle Cards, it's kind of work the same way, isn't it? I'm going to go in and hit you with my +10/+10 creatures, and then they're going to keep that bonus and have Vigilance, which means they will block your creatures. I mean, I'm just going to say Requisition Raid and pretty much move on from there. But yeah, some people might like that card. So again, I guess I don't find it offensive. And I definitely like the squirrels attacking the model village. Now, I appreciate the fact they're probably supposed to be giant squirrels attacking an actual village, especially because there are like villagers running away from the giant squirrels. But to me, it looks like cute squirrels attacking a model village. Don't mind the card existing, but it's not a good one. When this creature enters the battlefield, create a cat token. Rubbish. Right, let's have a masterpiece. When this creature enters the battlefield, it gets +X/+X. X is the total power of creatures you control. Okay. At the beginning of your turn, discard a card and draw 2 cards. Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? I can kind of see. I can kind of see those Galter players wanting to play with this. Yeah? You put a Galter into play, you've got an Attractor into play. You play one of these, it's got +23, +23. Who's not going to like that? I'm not too excited by it. I'm not excited by anything though, am I? Ah, such a spike, honestly. I mean, this is, you know, the Timmies will probably like this and the Johnnies will probably like this. But I can't see us Spikes getting excited by it. But, you know, you've got to respect that doubling of power on the battlefield. Whatever power you have on the battlefield, it doubles it up. That says win more to me. And when I say that out loud, I'm hearing win more. You know? And then at the beginning of your turn, discard a card and draw 2 cards is kind of rubbish, isn't it? When you can Overlord of the Flood Pits, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and fill those cards half full of mana, for 3 mana, just discarding a card and drawing 2 cards sounds kind of rubbish. But that's kind of a little extra bit on a card that's main purpose is to double up the power of your creatures. So, yes, win more for win more players. Enjoy yourselves with that one. When you cast a non-creature card, right, that might happen a lot. Create 2 beast tokens. They're going to be 2 3/3s, aren't they? Yes, they are. Okay, I mean, we've got some power here. 18 mana's a bit much. Every non-creature card you cast, you're going to be playing 2 beast tokens. When you cast a creature card, creatures you control get +2/+2. I don't think so, to be honest. And the reason is because, you know, I think we've got enough good creatures these days, haven't we? You know, I feel like there isn't a creature slot for those beasts. Because we've got Galter, and then you're probably playing with your Railway Brawler, and I don't know, maybe a Rakdos. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's going to find a home in, you know, big, beefy, green creature decks. You don't want one of these to pop out of the graveyard, do you? When you only use your ultimate with Ren and Realmbreaker, you want a Galter that immediately turns into a 165 Galter, don't you? I'll be honest, I can't even remember if Ren and Realmbreaker does bring enchantments out of the graveyard. I can't remember what she brings out. Is it just, maybe it's just lands and creatures she brings out of the graveyard, so maybe she won't bring this out. This to me feels like a bit of a powerful also ran. I don't think it will make the cut in the types of decks that would want to play it. But, you know, it's okay. It's fairly powerful. I'm not worried by it. Progenitus. Now, Progenitus is very good in paper because it has protection from everything. And protection in paper does not suck. Now, I notice that this Progenitus also has protection from a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of things. Protection from all 5 colours. The problem is that protection in Magic Puzzle Quest is worthless, isn't it? Has anyone, please tell me, has protection ever been relevant for any reason? I mean, like I say, I think you're more likely to find flashback relevant than protection. Let's have a look at what the actual text does, because maybe there's plenty of good stuff. When this card is destroyed, oh right, so it doesn't do anything until it dies. All it's got is a large body, which we really couldn't give a shit about because it costs the same as a Gelter. It's got protection from things which we do not care about. It's got hexproof. Yeah, with all 5 colours of mana, it's quite likely to have hexproof. But as we have discussed, hexproof is a thing of the past. You know? Destroying target creature is not something that happens anymore. Or at least not at the top of the game, it doesn't. So those are the only relevant abilities it has, and they're largely irrelevant. Hexproof is as much as it's got. Why not just give it hexproof? That would be better, wouldn't it? And then when it's destroyed, destroy all gems. Then return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, from all I know... Oh, no, that's not even going to work, is it? What I was going to say is, for all I know, maybe when it destroys all gems, maybe it would fill this card up with mana. But, of course, it's not going to, I don't think, is it? I don't know. But when it destroys... I would imagine it destroys all gems. Then the cascades would resolve. And then this card comes back into your hand. I don't actually know that. So maybe it does work. I also have no idea how much mana you get when you use an effect that destroys all gems. But you're going to have to watch that actually, aren't you? Because if your opponent kills this card, isn't he going to create a cascade? And then isn't he going to gain the mana from that cascade? This is just an all-round piece of shit card, isn't it? And this, apparently, is an exclusive. It doesn't have a little E on it. Oh, that one's got a little E on it. But this one can't currently be obtained from card packs. And it sucks. So don't spend money on that. That's my advice. We move on. Quake Striker Ceretrops. Now this one was in one of the Creatures of Might levels, wasn't it? There's a new event called Creatures of Something. And I noticed this creature in Creatures of Something because, you know, this is the kind of creature I would have liked in 2016, once again. When this creature attacks, destroy a support with 3 or more shield. That's okay. Killing a support every turn. I hate to tell you this, but we have Demolition Field now. So, yes, you know, it's okay. It gets to be high shit tier just because it's a 15 mana 12/8, frankly. Yeah, even if it didn't do anything else. And let's face it, when you're mastering cards, it basically doesn't do anything else. It gets to be high shit tier just for having a massive body for 15 mana. It's okay. It's not good enough. Quick Draw Katana. Now you want to watch that. If you draw it like that, you're not allowed to sheath it again until it tastes blood. That's what I heard. At the beginning of your turn, your first creature gets +2/+0 and first strike. Rubbish. Quilled Great Worm. We've got a 7/7 defender for 14. This is going to be one of those ones with a bad level mechanic on it. Well, it's not. Look at that. Look at the bottom of the card. It's not resetting the level to 1. Let's see. When a creature you control deals combat damage to a creature. And look, 14 mana 7/7 defender might be alright. When a creature you control deals combat damage to a creature, it deals +X/+X. X is the damage dealt this way. Now, we know, don't we, from Anzag the Mole King, is that what he's called? That, like, if he attacks and he was going to die, he buffs himself up so that he doesn't die. So I suspect the Quilled Great Worm is going to work in the same way. Yeah? If you've got an 8/8, well, let's say you've got a 7/7. You're more likely to have an 8/8. But let's say you've got a 7/7 and I attack you. Well, and your 7/7 attacks me. It has to be that way round because it's got defender. Yeah, your 7/7 would die, but I reckon the Quilled Great Worm would go down to 0 health, but then before it dies, I think it would get +X/+X and stay alive. I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. So that's good, isn't it? Creature you control deal combat damage. So it's getting +7/+7. It's the amount of damage that it puts out into the world. To a creature, right, okay. I was just checking there. It wasn't just going to double up every time it attacks your opponent. That would be all right, wouldn't it? But no, it has to actually damage a creature, and it's not like it's got Berserk, you know, it has to wait until it is attacked for the defender to work. When a non-token creature you control is reinforced, if this card is in your graveyard, increase its level by 1. When this card's level becomes 6 or more, return this card to the battlefield under your control. I mean, those numbers, that just seems much too big a number. 6, doesn't it? A non-token creature you control is reinforced. Seems much too big a number, doesn't it? I mean, this is absolutely high shit tier. And do you know what? Maybe a little bit better than that. It might be able to creep into mid-tier, but, you know, it's still mid. and I do mean mid, you know. Mid. That's all I got to say. Return each creature card. Oh, hello. Return each creature card from your graveyard to play under your control. Now, who remembers Redress Fate? That's not made much of a splash, has it? I mean, that looked pretty fucking ridiculous when they made it. It seemed like a solid example of power creep. I've really not seen very much of Redress Fate. Now, I'll tell you one reason I haven't seen much of Redress Fate is because I've been playing with Golden Wish, which is even more broken than that, you know? So, you know, there are a limit to the number of broken cards you can put in your deck. And if a card is too powerful, but not as powerful as all the other cards that are too powerful, then yeah, it's not going to see much play. So what Redress Fate does, I hope I got the name of that card right, it put all artifacts and enchantments from your graveyard into play. And it had overflow as well, so you could potentially just rip it off the top of your deck, much like Leyline of the Guildpact does, and it just casts then. Puts all artifacts and enchantments from your graveyard into play. This one does not have overflow, but I mean, I do think you've got to respect the fact that it can put all of the creatures in your graveyard. Each creature from your graveyard to play under your control. I mean, I don't know. So I'm too tainted by Golden Wish now. This is the thing. Like, when I play Dakon, I barely use this first ability because it's all about the fucking Golden Wish now, you know? Before I even get up to 9 loyalty, I've cast a Golden Wish. Thank you, Mystical Teachings. Yeah? And then all of a sudden, Dakon's first ability is fucking irrelevant, right? Because I'm going to use his ultimate. Yeah, I've cast Golden Wish. I've got 2 free supports into play, 2 free massive supports into play. Then I play his ultimate. I get 2 more supports into play, right? One of the things that Golden Wish put into play is a Chimel. That's probably given me another Golden Wish. So at that point, I'm chaining Golden Wishes off each other. So Dakon to me is no longer a Planeswalker who puts things into the graveyard. No, Dakon is a Planeswalker who just plays with the Black Blade all the time. So, yeah, you know, respect this card, but I feel like I'm not going to be playing with it because I've got better. And I kind of feel like everyone else has got better as well. Kind of. I mean, you know, obviously if Grist could play with that, she would, but she can't. So, I mean, I guess watch out for it. I'm not even sure you need to watch out for this in the same way that you watch out for another round, you know. When Greg casts another round out of the blue, that can at least hit you in the face and kill you, can't it? You know? White-green. There are white, I mean, there aren't really, are there? There's Tamiyo. Tamiyo is like the only really decent white-green Planeswalker. Naturally, I'm thinking of putting Galters back into play with Raise the Past. But again, I think with the power level of cards we're playing over at the moment, I think we can just skip the step of putting things into the graveyard. That's where my brain's going now, you know? Golden Wish just kind of skips the step of putting things into the graveyard, yeah? It just puts the things directly from your library into play. You know, and Dakon, then you've got Dakon's ultimate. Or you've got Tamiyo's ultimate. Again, Tamiyo's ultimate has a fairly game-winning effect when you're combining it with Golden Wish and you're casting, Golden Wish after Golden Wish. I think you just kind of skip that stage of putting lots of things into your graveyard. That's my feeling anyway. Go after it by all means if you want. But I'm not really excited by that card. Ravenous Amulet. I don't really see how an amulet can be ravenous, but we'll let that go. When a creature you control dies, increases level by 1. When the support is destroyed, that is an absolute piece of shit. Refute. Drain mana from your opponent's side. Please! Please give us a counterspell. It's okay. You can do it. Make another Insidious Will. You can do it. It's okay. We need it at the moment. I mean, for God's sake, what's wrong with having Insidious Will against Galter? What's wrong with that? We need something like that. Chris doesn't fucking care anyway. She's just going to ignore it and put fucking Galter into play straight away anyway. Just don't give us these draining mana cards because they all suck. Nobody plays them. Have a look at your stats. You will see it for yourself. People play these cards, they master them, they throw them away, and then they hope to God that they magically vanish from their play folders because they will never, ever play with them again. We move on. Revenge of the Rats. This is a bit expensive, isn't it? Interesting. I noticed the low buried cost. Unfortunately, 8 really isn't a buried cost because, with Flashback putting 2 mana in, that's 4 different cards with Flashback you have to play before this card comes out of your graveyard. So I'm sure this is how it works. I'm sure in paper this has probably got like an upfront mana cost that's, really expensive and a Flashback cost that's really cheap. I'm sure they've copied that. But that's actually quite an expensive Flashback cost. Create X, oh dear, where have we gone? X Rat Swarm tokens. Rat Rogue tokens, I'm sorry. X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and they are simple 1/1s. Anyone interested by this? Yeah, and if you're gonna do nothing but just dump cards into your graveyard, I mean, are there even any good ways of just dumping loads and loads of cards into your graveyard? I haven't really noticed them, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, like I say. I've been playing with, I've got one of my decks that I have in rotation is a Rel deck, so already he's dumping cards in your graveyard. It's playing with Drowned Secrets, and it's playing with Glimpse the Unthinkable. Yeah, so I can put a lot of cards in my graveyard. That's a legacy deck. Is there anything that's got anything like that power in Standard? And would we care if it did? Now, one of the reasons you can play with Drowned Secrets in a deck like that, and this is not a top tier legacy deck, this is just like a random playing around quest legacy deck. It was an old Standard deck, and the one reason you could play with Drowned Secrets in old Standard was because Beacon Bolt was so good. But Revenge of the Rats is not that good. And even if you could dump loads of things in your graveyard, no, I was going to say, would you want to? There's nothing that really penalises you a lot at the moment for having loads of cards in the graveyard. No. I don't think, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you can put lots of your cards in your graveyard in Magic, and this isn't a reason to do it, even if you could. We move on. Rise of the Dark Realms. It's got a Lord of the Rings thing going on here. Oh, hello, I like this. Yes, Liliana looking completely badass. That's pretty awesome. Crowd surfing again. Yeah, she likes a bit of Evanescence, you see, does Liliana of the Vale. Return your first creature from the graveyard to the battlefield with its reinforcements. Reinforce that creature 4 times. I don't like this. I don't like this for 24 mana. What I'd like is return the first creature from your graveyard to the battlefield without its reinforcements, and don't reinforce that creature for 8 mana. That's what I'd like to see. But, you know, I think I've made my feelings on the graveyard in Standard quite plain anyway at the moment. I'm not particularly interested in putting things into the graveyard to put them into play when I can just put them into play. That's very interesting. You're gonna spend your turn putting things in the graveyard, are you? Well, right, okay. I'm gonna cast a Dragonhawk, and I'm just gonna fucking rip endless value off my deck and hit you in the face with it. You have fun with your little reanimating shenanigan. What are you gonna do? You're gonna eventually put a Dragonhawk into play, are you? What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna fucking play it. So yeah, 24 mana, I don't really see the point of it, to be perfectly honest. You need to find something to put into the graveyard. I mean, it's not going to trigger 4 or 5 lots of Galta. Well, Galta can't trigger more than once anyway, can it? What's a card that you would want that would trigger every time you reinforce it? An Overlord of the Flood Pits? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the expense of it. Just the idea of having a... Look at me, I've got a really, really big thing in play. Oh, well, bully for you. Requisition Raid. It's too expensive, I think. I mean, you know, you could make the argument that it's not too expensive because it costs 9 mana now. But you can't say that every card is broken just because mystical teachings exist. You know? And again, you've had to take that step of spending some time putting something into your graveyard before it does anything. Whereas what you could be doing with mystical teachings is just casting a Golden Wish. We move on. Rite of the Dragon Caller. When you cast a spell card, create a dragon. Well, that's going to be a 5/5, isn't it? Yes, it is. When you cast a spell card, create a dragon token. Anyone like this? I mean, it's all right, isn't it? It's got kind of 2 shields, which is, you know, the wrong side of good. We like 3 shields on our support, don't we? For it to last and not go away. You can only have 3 dragons in a turn, but that's 15/15 worth of attacking power. It's just that you've got your token generation tied to having to play some spells when you could just play with Elspeth, couldn't you? You know, it is fairly cheap. Maybe some people will like it. This seems like one of those cards that I'll master midweek and I won't mind it too much. No, I probably won't actually, because the problem is that all of my midweek decks have all got really expensive spells in it. You know? Like Golden Wish and Requisition Raid, all the ones that I've been mentioning. To make this work, you need kind of cheap spells, and cheap spells have not scaled up in power the same way that expensive spells have. So maybe I will actually find mastering this card in a midweek deck difficult. Again, I don't mind it. There's nominally a lot of raw power in this card. I don't mind it existing. I don't like it. I don't think I'm going to play with it. We move on. There's another one of those rubbish lands. Rune-Scarred Demon. Again, sure we've got this already. I'm gonna go and look. Rune Demon. I wonder if that'll work. Damn it! Burning Rune Demon. No, they got me again. I'm determined to accuse Webcore of pulling an octagon and reprinting a card. But they just haven't done it, have they? Oh, I thought I'd got them there. Nope, they outsmarted me once again. Pesky, pesky, pesky. Rune-Scarred Demon. This is 16 mana 6/6. When this creature enters the battlefield, pick one of the first 4 cards of your library, then fetch that card. This card gains half its mana rounded down. I mean, that's weird. Isn't that weird? Like, this is an old school. This is an octagon card, isn't it? We have cards that give things full mana now. Yeah? If it's going to give half mana, we're going to get multiple cards from Chimil and the Overlord of the Flood Pits. Yeah? But if it's a single card, we're going to get a card every turn out of a mana filler giver. And this is just giving us one single card with half its mana. I'm baffled by that. It's an octagon card in a webcore world. There's a song in that. Rune Sealed Wall. Drain 6 mana from your hand when this creature... Oh yeah, ward, obviously. Creature enters the battlefield, surveil. That's rubbish. I mean, why would you even put ward on a card like that? Honestly. When this creature attacks... Rubbish, yeah. Savannah Lions. Oh, I mean, these were... Back in the day, these were a premier kind of beat down creature, weren't they? Getting a 2/1 for one single white mana, which is what they were in paper, seemed to be well above the curve. In this, of course, you know, in those days, they had to rebalance creatures and the spells because creatures just weren't powerful enough. So a 2/1 for one white mana doesn't really stand out anymore. But it's still, you know, still reasonably powerful. And what we've got a 6 mana 2/1. We've got an Orchard Spirit. When this creature is reinforced, gain X life. Dear me. I mean, it needs to be like a 6 mana 8/8, doesn't it? To really capture what these cards represent in paper, it needs to be a 6 mana 8/8. Here is another one of those rubbish lands. Right. I am beginning to feel that tooth doing its thing, having a bit of a rubbity rub on my tongue at the back of my mouth. I notice we have got about 40 cards left to go, but I think we're going to scooch them into a part 3. I don't think I can push through, unfortunately, and do all of the set tonight in part 2. So I'm going to move on and do that rare that we can just see peeping on at the side of the screen in the hope that we get to finish on a decent card. But yes, I was hoping I could push through. I think it would probably be a bit foolish to do. So part 3 is going to be a bit short, unfortunately. I will try and do that probably on Tuesday. Wednesday is the pub quiz. Oh, we're annoyed at the pub quiz at the moment. They've got rid of the picture round. No! It's one of the Pictionary rounds, you know, and it's all phrases, but they're all written like, we call them dingbats in this country. What do you call them in America? I don't know. You know, but they put letters in weird places and it represents a phrase. You know what I'm talking about! Anyway, they got rid of that round and we're all annoyed about it. We're hoping it will come back this week. They're kind of monkeying with the format of the quiz. This is great Magic Puzzle Quest content, isn't it? They're monkeying with the format of the quiz and they're taking feedback, so we're hoping they're not going to get rid of it every week, but they certainly didn't have it last week, and there's every chance we won't get it again this week. But they got rid of the sports questions. Hooray! This might mean we win more often, our team, because the sports questions is always where we lose, because we have nobody who knows anything about sports. But then apparently neither did any of the other teams either, so that's why they're all quite happy to get rid of it. Why did I start talking about the pub quiz? It's because I won't be able to do part 3 of the stream on Wednesday, so the provisional plan is to do parts 3 of the stream on Tuesday. Let us look at one last card, since it is a rare, and hope it's a good one. Well, it is a 11 mana rare. Okay, for Colours of Magic. At the beginning of your turn, each player draws a card. I don't think I want to do that in Colours of Magic. Do I? I don't think I want to give Greg more gas, to be perfectly honest. When your opponent draws a card, your opponent loses 3 life. So he's drawing 2 cards anyway, and you're making him draw another one. So this card is dealing 9 damage to your opponent. Well, it's not actually. Okay, so I play this card. And then on his turn, he takes 6 damage. Well, we're not drawing cards yet. And then, because it's Colours of Magic, on his turn, he probably kills this. And then if it does come back to my turn, then I draw an extra card, he draws a card, it hits him. It's certainly worth testing, I think. It's certainly worth testing in Colours of Magic. Could it be even slightly relevant outside Colours of Magic? I mean, I don't think so. You can make your opponent draw cards with good cards. Days Undoing looks a bit ropey these days. It's not really anywhere near the top tier anymore. I do, even up to 3 or 4 years ago, I would still have said that Days Undoing was one of my favourite cards in the whole game, but it looks pretty ropey now. However, it's now been replaced with Time Reversal. Now, I played Time Reversal a hell of a lot in the previous rotation of Standard. It doesn't look so good to me in this version of Standard, where we are now in 2024, because it's all about bombs now. Standard, I think, is all about expensive bombs now. And so I'll throw in a few cheat cards, just a couple of cheat cards like Vraska or Overlord of the Flood Pits, but most of my cards are costing 15 or more mana. So Time Reversal isn't quite as good now, but that is certainly a way to make your opponent draw a lot of cards. So this is an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I don't like making him draw an extra card, though. I just don't like that at all. It's probably a bit low power, but it is at least an interesting card. Let's just leave it there. I can see a little haste symbol creeping on the side of the screen there, but we're not going to go on to Sheer Slicer Goblin, I think. No, we're not going to go on to Sheer Slicer Goblin, because we're going to want part 3 to last at least an hour, I think. We must have gone slow tonight, or maybe I was just in the toilet for half an hour. Was I? I'm sorry if I was. But yeah, we're going to want part 3 to last at least an hour, so we're going to want to save as many cards as we can. So there'll be like 50 cards. Seems like we went slow tonight then, did we? 80 cards tonight? Do we 80 or 70? 80 cards tonight. No, maybe we didn't go slow. Anyway, I mean, it is only like 60 less cards in the whole set, isn't it, than normal? And, you know, we did look at the Planeswalkers and things as normal. So that is it for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for being in. Keep an eye on the notifications, and we will probably be streaming again Tuesday, and I will see you then. Take care. There's the button.